In manufacturing companies, managers need to assign costs to products to facilitate external financial reporting and internal decision-making. Chapter 2 illustrates a job order costing system to calculate unit product costs. In practice, companies normally assign costs to their products and services for two main reasons. First, it helps the manager to carry out their planning, controlling, and decision-making activities. For example, a company may use product costing information to better understand each product's profitability or to set each product's selling price. Second, it helps managers determine the value of ending inventory and the cost of goods sold for external reporting purposes. The cost of ending inventory should be reported as current asset on the balance sheet, whereas the cost of goods sold should be reported as an expense on the income statement. Absorption costing. Most countries, including US, require some form of absorption costing for external financial reports. So many companies use absorption costing for product costing purpose as well. What's the absorption costing system? In absorption costing, all manufacturing costs, including direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, both variable and mixed, should be assigned to units of products. So we say units fully absorb manufacturing costs. And for non-manufacturing costs should be treated as period costs and are not assigned to units of a product. A common type of absorption costing system is job order costing system. In Chapter 2, this chapter, and next chapter, Chapter 3, we will discuss job order costing system. In Chapter 2, we will focus on the role of a job order costing system in planning, controlling, and decision-making process. We will learn how to assign manufacturing costs to individual jobs. In next chapter, Chapter 3, we will explain how job order costing system can be used to determine the value of ending inventory and cost of goods sold for external reporting purposes. Let's first review job order costing system. Job order costing is a costing system used in situations where many different products, jobs, or services are produced in each period. Products are manufactured to order, and the unique nature of order requires tracing or allocating costs to each job and maintaining cost records for each job. Boeing and Walt Disney Studios are using job order costing system. In the job order costing system, direct materials, direct labor are traced directly to each job as the work is performed. But for manufacturing overhead cost, manufacturing overhead, including indirect materials and indirect labor, are allocated to all jobs rather than directly traced to each job. And we will learn how to allocate manufacturing overhead to each job. Let's take a look at the whole process. When a customer has placed the order, a production order is issued. After production order has been issued, the accounting department's job order costing software system will automatically generate a job cost sheet. The job cost sheet is used by the accounting department to track the direct material, direct labor, and manufacturer overhead associated with a specific job. Let's take a look at example for Paraco job cost sheet. There's a job number A-143. This number identifies a specific job, date initiated, department, and item ordered by the customer. This is wooden cargo crate. There are separate sections for direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturer overhead, and also the summary section to accumulate those costs, and total cost and unit product cost. Let's take a look at how to measure direct materials cost. Once the sales order has been received and the production order has been issued, the production department prepares the material requisition form to specify the type, quantity, and total cost of materials. The materials requisition form is a document which specifies the type and the quantity of materials to be drawn from storeroom and identifies the job which will be charged for the cost of materials. Let's take a look at the example for Paraco materials requisition form. Job number here, A-143, which matches the job number on job cost sheet. There's a requisition number X7-6890. For this job here, it requires two types of materials. 12 2x4 12 feet lumber. It does not say lumber here, but this is wooden cargo crate, so the material is wood. Unit cost $3. The other type, 20 1x6 12 feet lumber. Unit cost $4. So we can calculate the total cost for each type of material. We use quantity 12 multiplied by 3 unit cost, and you can get total cost $36 for the first type of material. And then 20 times 4, $80 for second type material. Total cost for materials, $116. Once the material requisition form has been properly authorized, then the person in charge of the storeroom will issue the lumber, the material. After materials have been issued by the storeroom, the cost of materials will be charged to the job cost sheet for this job, A-143. The accounting department records the total direct material cost on the section of direct materials. Requisition number here, X7-6890, refers to the number on the materials requisition form. You can see here, those two numbers are the same, consistent. So from the job cost sheet, if you want to know details of direct materials, you can refer this requisition number back to materials requisition form to get details. Then on the summary section, we recognize direct materials total cost here, $116. Next, we will measure direct labor costs. For direct labor costs, we use time ticket to record amount of time workers spend on each job. This is an example of Paraco employee time ticket. We have time ticket number 36, employee name, starting time, ending time, and hours completed for this job. Hourly rate, $11. So the total labor cost for this job, we calculate by 8 hours multiplied by hourly rate $11, and then we can get $88 for this job, A-143. Then, accounting department records the labor cost from time ticket on the job cost sheet. So you can see here, the section of direct labor, time ticket number 36, which matches the one here. Then 8 hours completed for this job. Total labor cost, $88. And on the summary section, we recognize 88 here. We will allocate manufacturing overhead to the job using predetermined overhead rate. Recording absorption costing. In addition to direct materials and direct labor, product cost should include manufacturing overhead as well. So manufacturing overhead also needs to be recorded on the job cost sheet. However, assigning manufacturing overhead to a specific job is complicated because of some reasons. First, manufacturing overhead is indirect cost, which means it's either impossible or difficult to trace these costs to a particular job directly. Second, manufacturing overhead contains different types of costs. Some costs are variable overhead costs, such as indirect materials or supplies. Some are fixed overhead costs, such as utilities, property taxes, and insurance of manufacturing facilities. Third, many companies have large amounts of fixed manufacturing overhead, so their total manufacturing overhead costs remain relatively constant from one period to next, regardless of the number of units they produce. Consequently, the average cost per unit will be different from one period to the next. To apply manufacturing overhead to jobs, we need to calculate predetermined overhead rate before the period begins. This is a formula to calculate predetermined overhead rate. We divide estimated total manufacturing overhead cost for a coming period by estimated total units in the allocation base for a coming period. Ideally, the allocation base is a cost driver, which causes overhead. Well, why do we need to calculate a predetermined overhead rate before the period starts? There are two reasons. First, actual overhead for a period is not known until the end of a period, so it will delay to calculate job costs during the period. If we use predetermined overhead rate, it's possible to estimate the total job costs sooner. Second, actual overhead costs can fluctuate seasonally. That's misleading decision makers. Let's take a look at how to apply overhead cost to jobs using a predetermined overhead rate. To calculate predetermined overhead rate, there are 4 steps. Based on the formula here, step 1, we estimate the total amount of the allocation base, which is the denominator. Step 2, we need to figure out fixed manufacturing overhead and variable per unit manufacturing overhead. Step 3, we use the equation here, y equals a plus bx, to calculate estimated manufacturing overhead. Is this equation familiar? This is the same equation as we've learned in Chapter 1 to calculate a mixed cost. Here, y is estimated manufacturing overhead. A is a fixed part of manufacturer overhead cost. B is variable manufacturer overhead cost per unit. X is estimated total amount of allocation base, same as step 1. After we figure out estimated manufacturer overhead, step 4, we can calculate the predetermined overhead rate using the formula. Let's take a look at Perico Company's example. Perico Company estimates it will require 160,000 direct labor hours to meet a coming period's estimated production level. In addition, the company estimates total fixed manufacturer overhead at $200,000 and variable manufacturer overhead costs of $2.75 per direct labor hour. Here, direct labor hours are highlighted. This is allocation base. To calculate the predetermined overhead rate, we follow 4 steps. First, we estimate total allocation base, 160,000. Step 2, we figure out fixed manufacturer overhead, 200,000, and variable manufacturer overhead per unit, $2.75 per direct labor hour. Keep in mind, direct labor hour is our allocation base. Step 3, based on the equation here, y equals a plus bx. X is same as step 1, that's the total level of allocation base, 160,000. So we can calculate 200,000 plus 2.75 multiplied by 160,000, and we will get estimated manufacturer overhead, 640,000. 640,000 divided by 160,000. We can easily calculate the predetermined overhead rate, $4. What does it mean? It means for each direct labor hour, manufacturer overhead cost is $4. And of course, we can simply follow the equation here and easily calculate predetermined overhead rate, $4. Keep in mind, predetermined overhead rate is for manufacturing cost. For each unit of allocation base, manufacturer overhead cost is $4. And specifically here, for each direct labor hour, MO cost is $4. Now let's go back to our job order cost sheet. After we calculate the predetermined overhead rate, we recognize manufacturer overhead cost on the job order cost sheet. Because the allocation base for this job is direct labor hour. From direct labor hour section here, we can see for this job, 8 hours are used. So on the manufacturing cost section, hours consumed for this job, 8 hours, same as direct labor hours. So to calculate the total manufacturer overhead cost, which should be assigned to this job, we use 8 hours, direct labor hours consumed for this job, multiplied by predetermined overhead rate, $4, and we can get $32. This is MO cost. Now we record this on the summary section as well, so you can see here MO cost $32. For this example here, we only calculated one predetermined overhead rate and apply manufacturer overhead cost to the job. This is a plan-wide predetermined overhead rate. And based on the sections of direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead reported on the job cost sheet, we can easily calculate the total cost and average cost per unit of the job. Let's take a look at job order cost sheet again. From the cost summary section, we add up 3 costs: direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. And then we can calculate the total cost for this job is $236 divided by 2 units. And we can calculate unit product cost, 118. Here's one question. What if the company produces one more unit? Then how about the unit product cost? Will the unit product cost be more than 118 or less than 118? Think about it. The answer should be less than 118. Did you get it right? Why? If one more unit is produced, direct materials, direct labor, and the variable cost of manufacturing overhead will increase as well. However, fixed part of MO, manufacturing overhead, will be constant. So the incremental cost of another unit is less than 118.